Have you ever looked in the mirror, gone through a spiritual awakening, and just thought to yourself, oh boy, what have I become? Does changing who you currently are in your present situation feel impossible? That's exactly where I found myself in 2013, the day after I lost my mom to cancer. I looked at my life and who I'd become, someone that was full of pain, anger, and sadness, and I figured that changing myself for the better was impossible. And 13 months later, I attempted to. And if it wasn't for Archangel Michael, I wouldn't be here. So I'm going to share some of the things that I've learned with you guys if that's where you find yourself. The number one most important thing to know is that you cannot transform yourself to the better version of you if you do not become self aware. You have to start identifying the negative thoughts that are popping up into your head and becoming aware of the negative energy that's flowing through your body as that's happening. So once you do that, you've completed the first step. Now, what do you do when you find yourself having this negative thought that is creating these negative emotions within you? Well, first of all, you have to become the observer. Instead of owning it and biting into that negative emotion and just being like, this is who I am, I'm an angry individual, you need to understand that there's so many more aspects of you and you're so much greater than just this physical being feeling this horrible emotion. And when you become the observer, for me, it just kind of happens where I sometimes my consciousness just goes behind me and I just observe myself. And when I do that, it makes me realize that I'm so much more than just this physical body feeling these negative emotions. And once you're capable of doing that, you pretty much have to incorporate meditation into your life. If you're not happy with the individual you've become, meditation was an absolute game changer for me. I used to have a Jetwick temper all throughout my 20s, my alcoholic years. I often joke with Archangel Michael. I was working with this shaman woman in 2015 to like 2022 before my guides told me that she was sending me decibels that had her son jump off a building, and she was going around slandering my name and black magic, curses, all that kind of stuff, right? And I often joke with Archangel Michael. I'm like, could you imagine if I found out all this when I was in my 20s? It'd be a much different situation. But I've completely changed who I was from my 20s. And meditation, what it does is it just calms and regulates your nervous system. And it gives you the ability to pause. When you learn to shut that little ego up, you become more in control. And it's amazing to me how hard it is for people to get into meditation. For me, the only reason why I got into meditation is because I was at a Rock and Gem show, and a slightly cute girl came up to me and invited me into this meditation before I knew she was gonna join this shaman woman in her little bum circles every full moon to send me black magic. But if it wasn't for her inviting me, I would have got into meditating. And I remember driving to my first meditation. I was in my car smoking a cigar, listening to Tupac, and I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing going here? I wonder how many people are smoking a cigar and listening to Tupac as they're driving to this meditation. My ego was just like, turn around, turn around. What are you doing? What are you doing? But what meditation does is it just gives you that moment to pause. When something somewhat negative in your reality occurs, rather than just instantly react with all this, crazy energy, it gives you the opportunity to think, to pause and think, how do I want to respond to this? I remember one time coming home from the road. I just was driving like 12 or 14 hours that day, was on the road for 3 weeks. I came home, and my son, who was less than a year old at the time, I just sat down. My wife at the time went upstairs, and like 5 minutes later, he took his diaper off. And, it was a full load, and decided to do some painting on the wall. And, if it wasn't for meditating at the time, I probably would have freaked out a little bit. But I looked over and I just thought to myself, I was like, I have two choices here. Well, probably three, but leaving it on the wall wasn't an option for me. So I realized that I had two choices. I could freak out and clean it up, or I could stay calm and clean it up. Either way, the choice was up to me, but meditating will give you that time to respond rather than react. And it calms your nervous system down. So the more you do it, the less that anger response is going to pop its ugly head up. You have to start taking accountability for your own healing. If you don't do it, no one else will. So what does that mean? Well, how many unhealthy addictions do you have? In 2015, I quit drinking for 7.5 years because I knew that it was doing nothing good for my healing journey. You have to clean up your diet. If you want to feel good in your body, you want to have more positive thoughts, what kind of fuel are you putting into your body? You don't put low quality gas into a Ferrari because it doesn't run right. So why do people not see themselves as a Ferrari, going to these fast food joints that are full of cancer causing chemicals, and then wondering why you're not peaceful? Stop drinking sugary pops and all this kind of stuff, right? Start putting higher quality foods into you. You have to take responsibility for your body. You have to get out in nature. You have to get sun on your skin. You working out is really going to help you transform who you are if you're not already doing that. Taking accountability for healing is up to you. And it's, for me at least, it was the most difficult thing I've ever done, transforming myself. It's not easy. When you meditate and you breathe, things for healing, things that you need to heal are going to come to the surface. And that's where, becoming the observer of these things that come up rather than owning them and biting into them is going to help you a lot on your healing journey. Because most people that find themselves in a situation where they want to change who they are have a lot of past trauma that they haven't looked at, or they buried down, or they have to do some healing. So if you want to change who you are, it's absolutely possible. I've done it. I'm not perfect. I still have moments here and there, but for the most part, when I think back to who I was in 2014 compared to where I am now, it's night and day. So just know that healing's possible and you can do it, but you got to put in the work.